Hey everybody, welcome to the show. This is Did You Hear About This? My name is Bill, here as always with Scott on a Friday night. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Rainy Friday night. Been shitty weather around here lately.
Well, there's a big tropical storm on the East Coast.
Yeah, our friends down in Florida getting hit pretty hard from what I hear.
I have an employee who's like, yeah, we're ready for this. We're ready for it every time. It never, ever reaches us, but, we're prepared. And then got a message today. Yep, it reached us. We're fucked.
I talked to a friend today that's been down there. He lived down in Florida for about 5 years. And I said to him, so I know you're not on the Gulf side, and I know that's where this storm's supposed to hit. Have you been a Floridian long enough that this doesn't even bother you anymore? And he was like, yeah, I've been down here 5 years. I think one time I bought like hurricane water just to like have like bottles of water. He said, but then I just drank it all before the hurricane even hit. So like, he's like, nobody cares.
That's funny.
He said, I never even lost power one time. So like they're, not to sound cliche, but water off a duck's back, I guess.
I talked to a prospect for my company who I own a marketing agency, and he was a guy who had a company that I can't think of the word. What did they do? The thing they did was they basically were hired by companies around coastlines, like in Florida.
Okay.
You'll probably know the name of this industry. I just can't think of it. And they hire him, and they're looking for information from him about building more, hotels and things on the coastline. They need this guy to go and survey the area and tell these companies, these hotel companies and these restaurants and everything that are trying to build around the coast, tell them that this property will be future-proof because of the chance of, global warming raising water.
Oh, so he's doing like surveying and core samples and basically almost like a consultant on future disasters?
Yeah.
That's wild.
There is a term for what he does, and it's just, it's escaping me. But yeah, like he goes down, he's like, oh yeah, don't build here. We think this will be underwater in 6 years.
Wow.
And I'm like, you really think there's going to be places that are underwater in 6 years or 10 years or like enough for you to have a business? He goes, oh yeah. Like, well, how do you know it's not bullshit? Like, you could be totally faking this just to make some money.
I was just going to say, is you can have like a divining stick to be walking around and, flipping over tarot cards and shit like that to figure out what's going to happen?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. Well,
it is storming a lot more than I remembered ever storming.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's global warming. I don't know if there isn't, but
there absolutely is.
Sure seems like it. Everything is on fire on the West Coast all the time now.
Everybody wants to argue, is global warming real or fake? I don't think there's any scientists that say it's not real or fake. The real argument now is it man-made?
Right.
And so the existence of it is not really up for debate. Here we are.
It's that science thing. Do we want to believe science? Well, as long as it doesn't hurt our bottom line. As long as we can still keep our pockets full of money.
Not in a political year.
Yeah. But scary times with hurricane. I couldn't live in a hurricane area. If I knew every year I was going to have to deal with a hurricane, like, it's just not for me. But yeah, some people are fine living the coastal life and dealing with this.
Shit, like 6 years ago, my brother and sister-in-law, they were set to get married in Myrtle Beach, and they had to cancel the entire wedding because hurricane came through.
Get out!
Cancel the wedding.
Yeah, they actually had the wedding up here locally instead of having this destination wedding down in Myrtle Beach.
I was going to say, did they just not get married?
No, they're married. Like, it's legit, but they got married in Pennsylvania instead.
All right. Well, we got a fun thing to talk about coming up. Before we get to the news, I'll give you a little teaser. You used to work at a toy store.
Yeah.
I've got a list of toys that are banned, toys that have hurt people. And I want to know how many of these you've heard of.
Number 1, trampoline.
It gets a little bit more
more specific
than that. Okay. Yeah,
I like this game.
Although it was on the list, there was a fold-up trampoline that they had to get rid of because people would jump on it, would fold and like eat them.
Smack them in half. It's like a Venus flytrap.
Before we get started, we did get some feedback from the last episode.
Oh, mailbag?
Mailbag, kinda.
Okay.
Kinda. Mailbag for us now is some people text, some people use that feature on Buzzsprout. Some people just do smoke signals and I look out the window and see shit. Some people send me shit through DM.
Sometimes I walk out front and they're like, hey, you know what you forgot?
Yeah. I got so many sources of incoming people. And all of a sudden I saw a note come in the other day. It was Brother Tim. He goes, you guys never respond to me on Facebook. And I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about Facebook.
I don't do Facebook. Sorry, Tim.
I do. It's my fault. I've been kind of bad over there.
Okay.
Social media just isn't my thing.
Me neither.
Mail, motherfucker.
So these are things that we forgot for 80s, 90s scandal story last week?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So last week we talked about a bunch of Hollywood and pop culture scandals. Apparently we missed a couple.
I thought of a few during editing, but let's see what they got.
All right. This one came from Brother Steve. Dana Plato's arrest for robbery.
I don't know this.
Yeah, I don't either. But how about Dana Plato's suicide?
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
You know, that was related to the Stern Show in a way.
Really?
Yeah, she did the Stern Show. He did his normal, beat the shit out of you.
Sticking it up.
She killed herself the next day.
Wow. When did this happen?
Was it the 90s?
Like,
I think it was the 90s.
92, 93?
2000s.
Yeah. It was that late? 2000?
It could have been. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't have that down. But yeah, Stern might have actually had something to do with pushing her to the edge.
I'd have to imagine she was somewhat fragile to begin with.
I guess.
You know what I mean? Didn't take a lot of nudging.
I want to see what he said.
That kind of raises my curiosity, too.
He also wrote, Robert Downey Jr., he says he broke into someone's house, went high, and people found him asleep in a kid's room.
Yeah, he thought it was his house. He didn't realize it wasn't his house. And he just went home, but he broke into a neighbor's house or something.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I like it. I had a buddy who did that too. I had a buddy who I grew up with who got way too drunk.
I think you talked about that on here before, yeah.
He just broke into someone's house and went to sleep and thought it was his own house.
That's wild.
Like, oh, I must have lost my keys. Let me break into my own house. And you still don't get it that it ain't your house.
Wow.
Did I ever tell you about the time in college when it was me and my buddies, roommates really, in an apartment, and all of a sudden this girl comes walking in and she sits down and she's hanging out. And we're like, who is she? And it took her about 10 minutes to look around and go, oh, this isn't my apartment. She thought she had walked into her own apartment and we were just a bunch of buddies of her roommates. She was sure she was in her own place, and we didn't say a word.
Oh, what were you going to say?
We were just like,
this is great. College is great.
It took her like 10 minutes. She's like, oh, wait, this ain't my apartment.
Weird sounds.
Yeah, we wished it. We tried to program a girl using the old 90s, kind of computers, and somehow it came true.
Here she was. Lasted for 10 minutes.
That's it. I love it. I remember seeing her, and she looks at a wall and goes, oh, wait, that's not my picture. Like, it took you 10 minutes to figure that out. What else we got? Drew Barrymore flashing Letterman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
I wouldn't call it scandalous.
Nah, not really.
It was kind of fun-hearted. It wasn't like, shocking.
It was cheeky.
Cheeky.
Should have more of that, if you ask me. Bobcat Goldthwait lighting Leno's couch on fire. I don't remember that happening.
I was never a Leno guy.
No? I watched all those things, man. Every talk show I watched.
I was always a Letterman guy.
This one came in from the text. Remember, everybody, you can actually text us if you go to, I don't know that it's on every single platform, but some of the platforms, I think Spotify
is
on
Spotify for sure.
Yeah, it says text the show. If you text the show, it comes right to me. Doesn't tell me who sends it. Just gives a random phone number. I'm not going to give that out.
No credit.
Yeah, no credit. But thank you, whoever you are, who submitted Bobbitt. Bobbitt. How did we forget Bobbitt?
Was John Wayne Bobbitt and Lorena Bobbitt?
Lorena
Bobbitt. So he was cheating, screwing around on his old lady, Lorena. She picked up a knife, whacked off the old tallywhacker, went for a drive, threw it out the window. It was found, reattached. And then what's the best 90s thing that could ever happen? Here comes the porn career.
The one-shot porn career. I don't think he had a big porn career. I think it was one of those, let's pay this guy a lot of money, and we'll get the video. We'll see if it sells. If it sells, we'll get him more work.
He was another one, like we talked about Amy Fisher and Joey Buttafuoco.
Yeah.
He was another one that was always on the Stern Show.
Yeah.
And I think they had Lorena on the Stern Show, too.
Did they?
I think so.
I heard this is happening to Dave Grohl tonight.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I heard his wife will be doing this to him tonight.
I mean, I think anybody that probably watched that porno was going to see his mangled member than they were to see an actual, good porn,
Did you see it?
No, I never did.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw it.
I never did. It'd be like a Frankenstein's monster.
We've got a couple of whiskeys here we're drinking. That'll help us get ready to watch it after this episode, man. After this taping.
Good Lord.
Did you ever watch porn with your buddies?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
No.
But I know people do that.
I've been to college parties where it was porn on television, looks like in the background, but nobody was sitting around watching it. You know what I mean?
Oh, man.
Can you imagine the creep that's sitting on the sofa like everybody else is drinking beer and hanging out and shooting the shit, playing foosball, playing beer pong, and then there's this one guy sitting on the sofa like
licking his lips.
Watching. Hey, wait, don't. Here comes a good part.
Yeah.
Like, no, that never happened.
This is the exciting part of the story.
I do remember going back to one of last week's scandalous things with the Tommy Lee and Pam Anderson porn tape.
Yeah.
I remember like that got passed around a lot. Nobody was watching it with their buddies.
No, but I know people do watch porn with their buddies.
Weird.
I don't know that they do anymore, but they did.
That's weird to me.
I used to hear people doing that. I was like, ugh. Speaking of porn, I just heard about Octomom. Remember Octomom?
Had 8 kids?
But she already had kids before, so she had like a total of 14, but she gave birth to 8 kids.
Right, octuplets.
And you're talking about Stern. I remember going on Stern and announcing that she was doing porn. Well, one of her kids is now a parent themselves. So Octomom is now a grandmother. Congratulations, Octomom. You made it this far. I used to feel bad for Octomom. I'm like, that is a bad situation to be in. When you're on Stern getting exploited and that's the only way you can get paid or do porn to raise 14 kids, you're in big trouble.
I don't know, man. This is the first I've heard about her in probably 20 years.
Sounds like she figured it out. Sounds like she survived.
I'm not saying she didn't survive, but what was that quality of life? It's a lot of rough road going on there.
Well, it could be worse. She could be living in a tunnel under Vegas. You know what I mean?
Well, this is true.
So I'm happy to hear that there's some goodness in her life.
She still exists.
She still exists. She did not
perish.
She did not go the way of Dana Plato.
Correct. So to segue off of that, speaking of people that have slipped off this mortal coil, celebrity death this afternoon.
Yeah, you wrote me, and I said, who's this?
Dame Maggie Smith.
Dame Maggie Smith. When you said it, I thought it was the woman who did the voice of Maggie Simpson. I don't know why.
Maggie Simpson barely had a voice. I mean, she just did pacifier sounds.
Right.
No,
right.
Maggie Smith was probably most famous to kids as Professor McGonagall from the Harry Potter series. Turned into a cat. I knew her most from Downton Abbey. She played the Dowager on Downton Abbey, and she was hilarious.
Would you like a spot of tea?
Fancy a spot of tea and crumpet?
Yeah, I had to look her up. I recognized the face. I haven't seen a ton of the Harry Potter movies.
So here's the thing that I was less familiar with about her. Apparently, she was in much younger years a pretty reoccurring feature on the Carol Burnett show. And I saw clips and I was like, I wouldn't have even known that was Maggie Smith.
Really?
Yeah.
Carol Burnett's still alive. I think she is.
She is, yes. Yep. But she had like the same kind of like reddish auburn hair like Carol Burnett had. Everything I know of Maggie Smith or know her from, she'd been white as a ghost. I did have to check to make sure that she was not the old woman from Titanic.
Are you saying all old people look the same?
I'm saying all white people look the same.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
Yeah.
All the old white people are going to be writing in, fuck him.
Hey, at least they're listening.
At least they're listening.
Speaking of which, little bump in numbers here in the past week.
Yeah, somebody's been sharing our shit.
I do know that HillRoadCoffeeRoasters.com, Brother Mumbo and Sister Jane have shared us on the Instagram, so maybe we're getting the caffeine heads.
You need it to be able to stay awake during this show.
Through this.
I think that's as good a point as any to do the bullshit we have to do as podcasters. Hey, everybody, please remember, let your friends know about the show. This is what we want you to do. Just text one friend. Just text one friend, say, I'm listening to this show. Bill and Scott are fucking hysterical. Just send them the link to Spotify. Just give them one demand. They're your friends. They'll do it for you. Just demand they listen to one episode.
I like the con. Tell them that, like, hey, I really want your opinion on this and talk to you about this. Listen to this show. I'll catch up with you afterwards.
Great. Guys, that would mean the world to us.
Absolutely.
Trick your buddies into listening.
And then talk to them about it. Don't talk to them about it. I don't give a shit. We got to listen.
Yeah. We win.
No, I'm kidding. I think if more people heard it, more people would like it. Keep it being fun to do. Not that it's not. I said before, I would do this if it was just me and you sitting here in the basement shooting the shit with nobody listening. So I thank all the listeners we have, and I just want to grow the family a little bit bigger. That's all.
We had any foresight at all. 20 years ago, we would have started hitting record on our smartphones and just taped our rando conversations that we were
Coincidentally, it would sound identical to what we're doing right now.
Identical. Well, rest in peace, Maggie Simpson.
Maggie Smith?
Maggie Smith.
There you go.
You want to talk about some toys that have been taken off the market for reasons?
Yeah. I mean, the way this show started off with all the porn, I'm glad that these are toys for children and not adult toys that were taken off the market for hurting people.
Oh, I didn't say they were kids.
That's a good point. Maybe I am assuming too much.
All right, so I call this segment Dangerous Toys. Dangerous Toys, all right? There's an 80s band, the 80s hair band called Dangerous Toys.
So that sounds familiar, yeah.
I like that band. Nobody remembers Dangerous Toys. All right, we'll start off with an easy one. They say this is banned, but I'm pretty sure I still see it around. Lawn darts.
Yeah, lawn darts now, though, are not sharp projectiles that stick into the ground. Like my kids have them. They're almost like flat bean bags on the end, so they land and they stand upright, but they're not like thunk, like they're not sticking into the ground like they used to.
Oh, really? That stinks.
I know.
Oh, that takes all the fun and danger
out
of
of kids. Go play catch.
I remember them always around when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it was fun to dodge the lawn darts.
It's a good game.
It was a great game. If you got hit with a dart, you were out of life. You're out of circulation.
You know what? My parents still have a set of the originals.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder how many feet they went through, those lawn darts.
Can you imagine?
I mean, it must fuck people up because they did take them off the market.
Yeah. Or they at least altered them.
Yeah. Well, now you can't call them lawn darts. Now you call them bean bags.
No, they still call them lawn darts.
Shameful. Here's a good one. The CSI Crime Scene Investigation Fingerprint Kit.
We sold this when I worked at KB Toys.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How many did you sell?
Not many. It was like this whole spy kit thing that kids could get.
What kid was into CSI?
I don't know. They also had like and it wasn't very good quality, but they had you could set up your own home laser grid maze to try and like step over it and like do like, Mission Impossible bullshit.
Really? I don't remember any of this.
It was the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s.
Well, the CSI Crime Scene Investigation Fingerprint Kit came with a powder that contained asbestos.
No shit.
Posing severe respiratory and cancer risks to children playing with the CSI kit.
I would guess so.
They just mailed them asbestos.
Mesothelioma. For those you stay at home watching television, they always have have you served on a World War II submarine?
Yeah. Called Jacoby and Myers now.
Yep.
We're the mesothelioma lawyers. That's hard to say. Mesothelioma lawyers. Well, I still can't say it. I'm done. That's three tries I just screwed up.
We're done.
I like this one. This one, I think, came out a lot longer ago than our age. But the Zulu blowgun, right? They actually had a Zulu.
Like a dart gun? Like no way.
Yeah. And it was like you could stick at the walls. But some people, some kids would suck it in. they instead of blowing out, they'd suck in. They'd suck the dart right into their damn throat.
Isn't that how Indiana Jones killed one of the guys in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
I don't remember that happening, did it?
Yeah, they're like in like a cemetery or something at nighttime.
And the guy sucked in?
No. Indy popped up and blew in the other end, which made no sense. It meant the dart would have been in backwards. Because it like hit him in the throat and he was like, and that's how he died.
I love the old movies like that. It's like you get shot once, you're dead, instantly dead.
This was Crystal Skull. This was like number 4 that came out with not that long ago.
You get a dart backwards into your throat, instantly dead. Instantly dead. I like that. When you see somebody get stabbed, they're like instantly dead. Ow! Ooh la la! Oh, we haven't done ooh la la in a while. Do you remember the Cabbage Patch Snack Time Kids?
No.
So when Cabbage Patch Kids came out, they were just dolls.
Would they put like food on a spoon and it would like suck the food off the spoon?
You didn't even have to put it on a spoon. You could give it like a French fry, and it would chew the French fry.
I do remember this a little bit.
And then it would come out the back of the doll. You could actually pull a latch off the back, and whatever you fed it would still be, sitting there.
Oh, okay.
Well, the problem was the thing didn't know if it was a French fry or a kid's finger.
Or a perv's ding dong.
Oh! How about Aqua Dots?
Yes, I know what Aqua Dots are. This was long after I worked at the toy store, though.
Contained a toxic compound that, when ingested, caused seizures and comas in children.
Seizures and comas?
Yeah.
How many kids died from Aqua Dots?
1 million.
I'd believe it. kind of class action lawsuit you think they had from that?
How many people have to die until finally Aqua Dots gets taken off the market?
Ran Spears on it.
Yeah.
Another one of those goddamn ambulance chasers.
Have you or someone you love been hurt by Aqua Dots?
That's right.
You ever think about that? How many people have to die from something until it's finally like, let's take it off the market?
There was that whole scene in Fight Club where Edward Norton's whole character, his whole job was an insurance adjuster. He would go around and like investigate car accidents and determine if this was going to happen, how many times, whether or not they would do a recall. Like if the amount of money they would lose in lawsuits would equate to the amount of money they would make by doing the recall, whether or not they would do the recall or just act like nothing ever happened.
Is that what that was about? I can't remember that because that's exactly where I was going.
That's what Edward Norton's job was in Fight Club.
Like at what point did the lawyers finally go, all right.
What's the break even?
Right.
That's what his job was to determine what was the cheapest way to go.
Yeah.
Do the recall or roll the dice?
Well, it might be a little like that guy I told you about this morning. It's like, well, we just want to know how long until the building falls into the ocean. 60 years? All right, we'll make 60 years of profit. The 61st year, that's where we're going to have to pay back a lot of...
But I can buy this land right now at $40 below cost per acre.
Yeah.
What's the cost? Yeah, what's the ROI on that?
Yeah, in 61 years when they start dying, I'll have made so much money, it'll be fine.
Right, I broke even. I'll be gone by then.
Man. How about moon shoes?
Oh, yeah, they had Nickelodeon versions of moon shoes, I remember.
I was watching a video of kids just jumping and cracking
just falling over?
Just cracking their ankles.
They looked impossible to walk in. I never had them.
Oh, you're supposed to jump in them like a trampoline.
No, I know, but I never owned a pair of these.
The kids in the video that I saw doing this, like they went up about 2 inches. Like,
it wasn't a big bounce, no.
No, didn't seem fun.
Yeah.
Didn't seem at all fun. In fact, it seemed like more work.
It did. It looked like a very unenjoyable thing.
Regular shoes are more fun than moon shoes.
Do they still make those roller shoes that you have running around? Remember they used to have like built-in roller skates in the bottom?
What are they called? Heelys?
Heelys, yeah. Do they still make those?
I don't know. Every once in a while, I remember seeing a kid just in the city fly right by me on his heels.
Well, can you imagine how many kids wipe the fuck out on those things to hurt themselves?
How many have to die until you get rid of Heelys?
What's the break even? I know.
Didn't make our list. How about sky dancers?
Yeah, my daughter just got a sky dancer, years ago now, but she was probably 3 when she got one. This was one of those things where you like pull the cord and like the fairy flies around.
Yeah.
And I think there was like a classic YouTube video where somebody gets it for Christmas and like pulls the cord and it goes right into the fireplace. I could see them being dangerous though.
Yeah, it says here, their fast-spinning wings cause serious injuries such as scratched corneas and broken bones.
I could see it causing some lacerations.
How'd they break a bone?
Kids' fingers they snap like nothing.
Reminds me of a story my father told me. You know, my father being a 75-year-old man, so when he's a kid, he got a model airplane, like a remote control airplane, and he gets it for Christmas. He's so happy. Oh, my God. He's got something so cool, and he puts it together, and it's Christmas morning, and he goes and he throws his airplane. He grabs his controller to control it. The controller's not working. Thing is now go bzzz, straight away, just out of sight, just goes away, just vanishes. He couldn't control it.
A more recent day example of that, I know somebody that got a drone, just to fuck around with, and it was hooked up to his cell phone, and he had a control, and he could have the camera on his cell phone, and well, there it went. And they were like, I don't think you understand. We paid like $800 for that, so they had to go find it. But he was just like, well, there it goes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. My dad's like, I watched my brand new gift just fly away, and there was nothing I could do about it.
This guy was just going to sit there and drink more beer, and they were like, no, I don't think you understand. We have to, it's not disposable. Like, that costs hundreds of dollars. So they tracked it down to a cemetery like 2 miles away.
Well, next on the list is Sky Ranger's RC airplane, which...
This one you pumped up with air?
No.
Okay.
This one seemed to be just like my father had, seemed to be an RC airplane for kids in our lifetime, but the fucking thing would blow up. There's footage of it exploding in a big flame.
Kids and you, they get model airplanes and then just never build the airplane, just huff the glue.
We hung out with the same kids, apparently. Do you remember clackers?
Yes. They still sell clackers.
I don't remember these.
Oh, well, so the clackers I know of when I was a kid, you had like the plastic handler or plastic balls. But I know my parents tell stories of clackers back in the day didn't have the plastic handle. It was just like 2 glass beads on like a string. And the whole thing was like to clack them. But like they would shatter, or you get your finger stuck in between them, you'd be breaking bones and shit like that.
Yeah, that's what it said here. Hard to control, causing injuries by hitting users in the face with the risk of plastic spheres shattering upon impact.
So they were plastic still. My mom told me they were glass, but maybe they were plastic and she didn't know the difference.
Do you remember those other things? Just hit me. What the fuck were they? It was like two weird little balls that you could hold in your hand. It wasn't like these. It wasn't on a string or anything. But you would just take the balls and clack them together.
I do remember that,
and they would bang like a cap gun.
Yeah.
What were they made of? And where are they now?
Asbestos.
How many kids died playing with those?
We don't talk about that.
No.
That didn't reach the threshold.
No. All right, last on the list, Hannah Montana Pop Star Card Game. Do you remember selling the Hannah Montana Pop Star Card Game?
I remember selling the Hannah Montana doll.
Yeah?
Like the Barbie doll. I don't remember the card game. Why was this recalled and why was this dangerous?
Well, it turns out the Hannah Montana Pop Star Card Game contained dangerously high levels of lead in the vinyl case, far exceeding legal limits. So if you sold this to any kids, you might have been an accessory to a murder.
Well, the paint chips tasted delicious. Very sweet.
Never had one. I never see a kid just licking the wall. Like,
yeah.
Tastes sweet.
Damn, I thought for sure you were going to talk about the Boba Fett spring-loaded backpack missile that was really never released because of the choking hazard.
Right. That's one of the rarest old Kenner action figures.
Yeah, as far as 3.75 action figures go for Kenner Star Wars, Boba Fett's is one of the rarest. It only ever came out in prototype because of this choking hazard from the spring-loaded rocket in his back.
If I remember right, my Boba Fett toy was one of those mail away these 20 proof purchases and get one.
Yeah.
So if you have one of the Boba Fetts with the rocket, it was probably a mail away. So
maybe.
Damn, I didn't get that one. Now I'm sad.
I could have choked on something.
What the chance?
Did you have anything you can think of as a kid that was not safe?
Pogo sticks. Like, we could hurt ourselves on pogo sticks. Everything we played with as a kid, we could hurt ourselves with.
It's true.
Yeah. It only started to really get policed in the 90s, I think.
Because of these dumb kids.
Remember, there was wacky wall walkers that were weird and made of like weird chemicals. There was slime. Who knows what was in that shit?
I've ruined so many walls in my parents' first house with wacky wall walkers where like the shit would just stain the wall.
Yeah.
And I would get in such trouble. And then they try to paint over it and it would still bleed through the wall.
Would it?
Yeah, it would bleed through the new paint.
It's just this octopus tentacle
So you
shape.
know those chemicals were not good.
No. Remember there was a toy... I don't remember the name of the toy. Maybe you do. But it was a toy that was sold. And it wasn't Stretch Armstrong, but it was sold as a toy that you could pull this character apart and whatever the material was made of, you could just stick it right back together. It was like a weird Play-Doh type consistency. And the commercial's like, look, you can pull his arm off and pop it right back on and everything is fine. And kids were getting the toy and it wasn't at all like advertised.
They just rip it apart and it would never go back together?
It would never go back together. So kids would get this like brand new Stretch Armstrong type looking toy, and pull it apart and be like, watch mom, it's going to go back. And it doesn't go back. And the mom's like, you just destroyed your toy on Christmas morning, you dumb kid.
That's stupid.
Yeah, we all got fucking duped by the commercials.
The most dangerous thing I could think of, do you remember the little tubes of maybe rain blow it was called? It was like some kind of like putty looking tube, almost like a small little toothpaste tube. And it came with a red straw and you would put it on the end of the red straw and like blow up a little balloon and then you could seal it shut and like bounce it around.
Yeah.
And you could tell just from the smell of that stuff that it was killing brain cells. Like it smelled like you're just straight up playing with paint thinner.
I remember those.
And like the color of it was always rainbow looking.
Yeah, I do kind of remember those.
Oh, man. I'm just thinking back, everything that they ever sold at the gift store at the campground we went to as a kid, probably all of it was just banned at some point in time later on.
I had real nunchucks as a kid. I had
we talked about throwing stars.
Yeah.
We talked about throwing stars. Like you could just go to the farmer's market and buy that shit.
We were real into just taking aerosol cans and turning them into blowtorches.
I used to like taking Bic lighters and like rubber banding them down and they would just turn into like little rockets. It'd blow up after a while.
Bic lighters?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
It's just flammable. Just duct tape or rubber band down the fuel button and strike it after you messed it up a little bit, and it would just fall over and take off like a rocket.
No shit. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
I would have been doing that every day. That's cool. That's the kind of shit I was into.
Just playing with fire.
Like taking a tennis ball, putting gasoline on it, lighting it, and rolling it down the street.
Running into a parked car, pile of leaves. Yeah, who knew?
You don't think that far ahead.
I know. Maybe toys were as dangerous as what they were because we really didn't want to play with them. We wanted to play with like real flammable non-toy things.
Yeah. You know what? There was another one I should have put on the list. I didn't recognize the toy, so I didn't put it on there. But apparently back in the day, like in the 60s, they had some kind of belt buckle that a kid could press a button, the belt buckle would open, and a fake pistol would pop out and shoot a pellet. But it would also be a cap gun at the same time. So sometimes those cap guns got a little hot and burned. And, think about where the belt is. Think about,
This reminds me of Dick Gun from Dusk Till Dawn.
It's Dick Gun. Oh my God, I didn't even think of that. It's exactly
it's
that.
Savini.
It's Savini. It's Tom Savini's Dick Gun. Yeah, they used to sell that to kids.
Wow.
And I guess once in a while, it would catch the kid on fire and,
Right in the old crotchal region.
Right in the old hang low.
Yeah. Put a little smoke on the hang low, huh?
Yeah. I love talking about this stuff because growing up, nobody cared.
No.
We were rough and tumbly. We got hurt all the time. The toys we bought hurt us. We're like, buy us more toys that hurt us. And now it's just, you can't sell nothing like that now.
I could give my kids toys to play with like this. And they're like, oh, is it online? Can I get Wi-Fi with this? Like, I don't want to play it. Like, they wouldn't even enjoy it.
I remember some of the fake knives and swords were pretty fucking sharp and dangerous too.
I remember one of the biggest toys I was most excited about getting when I was a kid, again, at the campground, it was a Rambo electric water gun.
Nothing is over!
And it took batteries and you would fill it up and then the water would go in almost like a magazine would go into a gun. And you could just quick reload, and it came with like the Rambo green jade necklace and the red headband, and I was like, "This is amazing!"
That's great.
Yeah, batteries died really, really quick, and it didn't hold that much water or come with that many magazines, so it was flawed. But it was one of the things I was most excited to get when I was a kid.
I needed that for a certain traumatic Cub Scout memory that I have.
Uh-oh.
You want a story? I got a story. So I used to do Cub Scouts in this town called Warminster, Pennsylvania. There was a Navy base in Warminster. So I used to do Cub Scouts.
This is when you dropped out of, but you talked about this before. You dropped out of Cub Scouts based on this Jughead Cub Scout leader, right?
Yeah, I talked about the Cub Scout leader, but I didn't tell you about this one day in Cub Scouts. So because we were at the Navy base and the Cub Scout leader was a Navy base guy, he knew all the other military guys in the base, and he must have said to them, hey, I want to do this thing. I want to take the kids out to, and we were, you know what? I even remember we had merged a bunch of different Cub troops together. So there was like 50 of us. I want to take the kids out to the woods. You guys are trained assassins as military men. We're going to do a giant water pistol war. And I remember my mom was supposed to go out and get a good water pistol. She went out and bought the cheapest ones, right? But the water pistols that I had, like I'd squirt them a couple times and then they broke.
Sure.
But we'd fill them with red dye. And as we were running around, it was early paintball. And we're running around the woods. Dude, I got so fucking lost for half the day. And these military guys were up in trees. We had no idea.
You're out there fighting Predator.
And it was the craziest thing. We're running around shooting each other with these guns, and my gun fucking blew up, and I'd die all over me. They're like, "You're dead." I'm like, no, my gun's leaking. They're like, "No, you got shot." I'm like, shit. But if I had the Rambo machine gun,
it was marketed that you would have had a better chance. Would you have had a better chance? Batteries probably would have died, and you'd be out there with like nothing.
Shaking it, hoping a drop comes out of it.
You're out there shaking like the Pope with holy water.
Yeah. Well, any more toys you can remember?
No, not really. Everything else was just G.I. Joe or Transformers or, the basics.
Yeah, there was a lot of war stuff.
Yeah.
I always thought it was interesting in the G.I. Joe cartoons, like nobody ever died. If somebody got blown up in a plane, you'd have to see the little guy jump out with a parachute.
Yeah.
And the guns were all lasers. If you remember, they weren't really bullets. There was some, FCC laws or something that made that be the way it was.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, that's it for the Dangerous Toys segment.
All right.
Go on.
I feel like I was robbed of a childhood for not having some of those things.
Not too late.
Apparently it is.
Somebody's still got to have some of these toys laying around. Let's go buy them all and try to hurt ourselves.
So here's something. It's illegal to sell at a store now, but do you think you can find these things at a con?
Maybe.
As a collectible?
I think this is a new TikTok challenge.
Oh.
We're not on TikTok, but there's all these challenges. This is the new challenge. We're putting it out there. Tell your kids. They have to go find these old toys, play with them, and not die. That's the challenge.
Find the OG clackers.
Find these balls that are full of arsenic or whatever I was saying they were.
Find the asbestos fingerprint kit.
That's crazy. I still don't know what kid would be like, oh my God, you got me the kit from CSI, the TV show I don't watch because I'm a kid.
Yeah, I remember that shelf never had to be restocked ever.
The science toys, nobody wanted them.
No.
I remember there was
Although sea monkeys were fun.
Sea monkeys? What the fuck were sea monkeys?
Brine shrimp.
Is that all they were?
That's all they were.
I wish I came up with a fucking ruse like that. I want to meet the guy who came up with the pet rock because he's my hero.
For real.
Made so much money off absolutely nothing. Or the guy that came up with a slinky. He just took a slinky from some job he was working at, a spring rather.
Yeah.
And he watched it go down the stairs and he goes, I can sell this.
It's the same as Silly Putty. They made Silly Putty trying to do something for NASA.
What's that story?
I'd have to do some more research. But yeah, that was a NASA byproduct.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I love Silly Putty. I loved with the comic strips, the Sunday morning. I just press it down, peel it up, and look, there's Archie.
Look, Family Circus.
And then all I got to do is squish it up and it's gone.
Garfield's face. Boy, he really hates Mondays.
Let me stretch him. This is hours of entertainment. Kids couldn't handle shit like that now. God damn, they'd be so bored of that within seconds.
Plus, it bounced.
Yeah, it did bounce. What was that made of? That couldn't have been good for us. I wonder how many toys are made by companies where the companies go, I know this could kill a kid, but let's see how far we can go. I wonder if Silly Putty was one of those toys.
They're like the Philip Morris of toy companies.
Yeah. There's a guy right now in his late 80s going, I don't know how I dodged that bullet, but I am a Silly Putty empire, and I am living a luxurious life.
Oh, man.
Thank you, Silly Putty.
It had a warning label.
8,000 people died, but couldn't prove it was me. Couldn't tie it back to us. All right, you want to do some news?
Yeah.
All right.
Uplifting news?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got some good news. No, I don't. I just scanned this list.
Say, first story. Did you hear about this?
Let's talk about that Thunderbolts trailer. Have you seen the Thunderbolts trailer for the new MCU movie, The Thunderbolts Asterix?
Here's the wild thing about the Thunderbolts trailer. I saw a Cinema Blend breakdown or a Screen Crush breakdown of the trailer. I don't think I actually saw the trailer by itself.
Well, it's the grounded side of the MCU, which is the side I like the most.
Yeah, it's so grounded that Thunderbolt Ross just turns into the Red Hulk.
Well, see, now you're confusing the movies.
What do you mean?
Thunderbolts isn't Brave New World.
Oh, you're right. Thunderbolts is with Black Widow's sister and the Russian dude.
And that other girl and that other guy.
Yeah.
And
How did I possibly confuse these things? I care so much about them.
Well, here's what I think is going on. So it's called The Thunderbolts. It looks like it's a show. It's a movie. It's not a show. Looks like it's a movie that's a little bit like Suicide Squad, right? It's a bunch of people that are not great people.
That's how I heard it described.
Perfect. Then I'm reading it right because it was pretty clear to me that it was like, let's take a whole bunch of people that are not great people and give them a redemption story. So the team ends up in this trailer. They're all just kind of like in a room and they're looking at each other, and it's U.S. Agent from the Falcon and Winter Soldier. You know, he's getting a chance to come back, and that's Kurt Russell's kid, so I root for that kid.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you look to the left, and there's Ghost, the bad guy from Ant-Man 2. And then you look over to the right, and there's...
Wait, wasn't Ghost the bad guy from the Black Widow?
No, that's
Taskmaster.
Taskmaster, and all of a sudden Taskmaster
is there.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right.
So they're introducing all these characters real fast, and then it's kind of like, well, wait a minute, why are we all here? And the first thing I saw watching that trailer, I'm like, what building are they in? I said, it looks like Stark Tower.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, in one of the earlier movies, they just made a throwaway comment like, "Oh yeah, Tony sold the Stark Tower. He's moving the Avengers headquarters up in New York City, like above New York City." And they never said who bought it. Well, now you know it was bought by
Thunderbolt Ross.
No, because the person who put this team together is Elaine from Seinfeld.
Wait a minute. So Thunderbolts have nothing to do with Thunderbolt Ross?
Evidently, it has nothing to do with Thunderbolt Ross.
So this whole thing that all the leaked CGI and all that bullshit with Harrison Ford has nothing to do with this movie?
Not yet. Not by the trailers.
I just thought they didn't show that part. That's going to be the next Avengers initiative?
So here's what I think. One of the things about this movie when it came out, it was Thunderbolts Asterix.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, what's the Asterix about? And
Kevin... It was actually part of the title.
Yeah. Kevin Feige's like, it'll come into play later. It'll come into play. And Asterix, when you put it next to something, it's like temporary.
Or there's an exclusion.
So to me, what I think they're doing is putting together, from the comics, the Dark Avengers.
Right.
I think we're going to one day wake up and Marvel's going to be like, we did what we were going to do but didn't tell you. We've changed the name. It's not Thunderbolts. It's now Dark Avengers. Surprise, we're making a Dark Avengers movie.
So you think Thunderbolts Asterix is just a placeholder?
Yeah. I'll bet you that's what they do.
I got to tell you, I don't give a shit about any of it.
I like that. I like that it's an Avengers Tower. That's the world I grew up with. Well, I didn't grow up with. I was a fucking old man. But it's the first 10 years of Marvel that I kind of watched and came up with. I love the first 10 years. So this is going back and kind of touching base with the first 10 years of Marvel. But this time it's a Dark Avengers, right? So the Dark Avengers in the comics were all bad guys that were taking the role of Avengers. One of the other people in the trailer they announced was Sentry. They show Sentry. Sentry is like Superman in the Marvel universe. They show him as a kid. And this kid walks out and he's like, "Hey, who are you guys?" And they haven't revealed yet that he's Sentry. He doesn't even know why he's there. It's one of these stories where the kid's like, "I don't know who I am, how I ended up here." So we're going to find out that he's Sentry. And what I'm seeing is basically they're recreating the Avengers. Sentry is the super strong one, so he'll be the Hulk, right?
Yeah, or
Black Widow's sister will be the Black Widow.
And we have Captain America, U.S. agent.
Mm-hmm.
What about Thor?
I don't know who Thor would be. They had Taskmaster shooting a bow and arrow, so that's Hawkeye. Yeah, so I'm like, this is the Dark Avengers.
So the whole thing is going away from the Young Avengers that we thought they were setting up.
Yeah, I don't know where that is. That's nowhere in sight.
And you're excited for this because of that one building.
Because I think I like the grounded MCU stuff. I think we just got too cosmic, too weird, too spacey. Give me shit on Earth. Yeah, I got excited by it.
But Yelena was raised in the Red Room, which was a spaceship flying up above Russia.
Was that in the MCU or is that in the comics?
Yeah, well, no, that was in the Black Widow movie.
Oh, barely remember that movie. I should watch that again.
Don't bother.
No?
I mean, it was all right.
It was okay. That's when they started to just become meh.
But I mean, if you think that's grounded, I mean, it was a spy organization.
Well, it's a lot more grounded than Moon Knight. You know, I'm still trying to think of what the fuck Moon Knight was about.
Yeah, they had me up until the talking hippo. Yeah. I was like, what? Yeah. The fuck is going on here?
Forgot about the talking hippo.
I mean, a guy with dissociative disorder, I'm all for that. He comes out as a badass and he works as a fucking janitor at a museum. Like, I'm okay with that. We're talking to hippos?
Yeah.
What the fuck is this?
Ridiculous. Who talks to hippos? Still
watching Agatha.
I heard it's a news story here. I heard that it's doing really well.
I saw the ratings went up to like 79% on Rotten Tomatoes.
So that's a hit.
I'm for it. Things got a little bit more escape room spooky-ish this week.
Yeah?
Yeah, things are unfolding. They said the name Mephisto.
Yeah. So, all right, here's what I'm doing. I'm still not watching the show, but I'm watching the Screen Crush breakdown just to make sure I'm not missing anything that's tying to the greater MCU that I need to know about.
So you're not going to take my word for it?
No, I'm going to take Riot Aries' word for it.
Okay.
But I am so thankful for those videos because I should not be watching this show. I have no interest in this show.
That's how I feel about me watching the Thunderbolts.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, we're on different pages there.
Don't care. Yeah.
Oh, he's breaking it down. I'm like, the Witch's Road. I don't give a fuck about a Witch's Road.
I never finished my thought about Witch's Road. So the Witch's Road is where they are going through these trials and things. The entire set, all practical. So not much of a spoiler, but they're in a house this most recent episode and the house is surrounded by water, and then glass breaks and the house fills with water. They literally flooded a full-on house instead of using CGI. So this is all being shot practically.
That's kind of cool.
Really cool.
So they announced Mephisto. And Mephisto we thought was going to be in one of the earlier Doctor Stranges and didn't happen. So this is how they're going to introduce the character. But I don't even know who Mephisto is.
It's the devil.
He's the devil.
Basically, yeah. Looks very much like... If I showed you a picture of Mephisto, you'd be like, oh, it's the devil. That was his look.
That's not the same guy from the X-Men who was just in the Deadpool movie. Remember, there's a red guy who looks like the devil?
Red Nightcrawler?
Yeah.
No, that was not him. That guy's name was... Azareth or something like that.
Asgard. Azrael. Wasn't that the Gargamel's cat?
Sure was. Azazel?
I don't care about any of that shit in the MCU. To me, it's weird that Thor is in there. Hercules
Well,
is
he
in
was
there.
never in the
Zeus.
MCU. He was in X-Men First Class. And then I guess he was just in Deadpool Wolverine. So I guess he now is in the MCU, but that was his first MCU thing in Deadpool Wolverine.
Well, let me restate it. I shouldn't have said MCU. I should say, now every time I say Marvel, I say MCU.
Yeah,
It
me
sucks.
too.
I
I
gotta
do the
stop doing
same
that.
thing.
But Marvel, like if there was a comic and I was like, all right, I'm a kid, I'm kind of looking at the different comics on the tree here in 7-Eleven, and I go through, I'm like, that one's got the devil. Skip that. That's stupid. The devil. That one's got a god, Hercules. Skip that. That's stupid. Why would Hercules? Like, is Jesus Christ in the Marvel?
Maybe.
Marvel canon? Is there a Jesus character?
We did a whole show about public domain characters in comic books. You can't get more public domain than Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I don't like when they put the devil, and I got used to Thor, and I love Thor, but I really shouldn't. That's normally the shit I can't stand.
Yeah.
That Thor Love and Thunder, when they brought out Hercules and brought out Zeus and all that, I was like, this is stupid. Just don't care.
Well, I don't know, man. I'm not excited for anything that I've seen in this Thunderbolts asterisk.
Well, I know what'll get you excited. According to Deadline, Freddie Prinze Jr. officially joined Sony's I Know What You Did Last Summer sequel film.
Freddie Prinze Jr., was he married to Sarah Michelle Gellar?
Yeah.
Who was in the first I Know What You Did Last Summer?
Was she? I know Jennifer Love Hewitt's.
Oh, you're right. Okay, I'm sorry.
It says Deadline revealed Prinze Jr. It's not Prince, it's Prinze.
Okay.
Deadline revealed Prinze Jr. and his co-star Jennifer Love Hewitt were negotiating to return for the franchise continuation project when it was confirmed to be in development in early 2023. I didn't know that. I didn't even hear
No,
that.
I didn't know this was coming back around.
Hewitt is still very much in negotiations to reprise the role of Julie James, we hear. I remember that movie. I remember the sequel. I remember not giving a shit about it. I remember it came out right when Scream was getting big. The guy that put this out and Scream.
Wes Craven?
No, and The Faculty. Actually, you're right. Wes Craven put out Scream.
Yeah.
There's another guy. I can't remember his name, but all of a sudden in horror, he was like the Blumhouse guy for a hot minute.
Yeah.
And he was making all these smarter horror movies.
So I remember part one of this, high school kids being played by 27-year-olds hit a longshoreman who then was not dead.
Right.
But then hunted each one down because they threw his body off a cliff.
Something like that. And he had a hook for a hand.
Well, he had like a fish hook thing, but it wasn't like his hand. I don't really remember. But then they made a part two.
Yeah. And then the whole thing died. Like people stopped giving a shit about Scream, stopped giving a shit about this kind of horror. I think.
Well, then they remade like House of Wax, like the shit with like the old Vincent Price movie. Like they started making remakes then of horror movies.
Oh.
But still in the same style as what these movies were.
Well, it seemed like after them, you stopped seeing big stars in horror movies for a while.
Yeah.
There's still things like The Ring and a couple things that were winners. Blair Witch was a winner for a while in the horror genre, but there wasn't a ton of horror for a minute after they made these Scream and these I Know What You Did Last Summer movies.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Now, I remember saying a couple episodes ago, it's like the 80s kind of made a comeback, but now the 90s is getting its turn.
Yeah.
So this is an example of that. That was a 90s movie. And what's the point there? Is that we have this franchise, we paid for it, we better do something before everybody who remembers it dies. But who cares? Who's going to go see this?
I find it funny that they feel this need to bring back Freddie Prinze Jr. and what's her name? Jennifer Love Hewitt. Like, were they that big of a draw for the first one that they have?
Just got a text. Freddie says thank you. It's Freddie. Freddie says thank you. You got it right.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad that you appreciate my enunciation. I still question your need to be in this remake.
Yeah. Well, what's he doing? He'll take like any job that comes through now. He's not a working actor at the moment.
Yeah, but this feels a lot along the lines of when they had to crowbar Courtney Cox back into the next Scream movie. Like, was she that integral to the story?
Yeah, that's a really good comparison. That's what this is.
Yeah.
And what's the story going to be? Oh, we hit another guy on the road.
This guy worked on an oil rig.
And just so happens to have a hook for her hand.
I feel like part 2, though, wasn't the longshoreman. It was another one of their friend group that turned. Who the fuck knows? Like, who cares anymore?
Who cares?
Who cares?
We're not going to see it. Well, my next story is a fun story from the New York Post. Boy, 7, denied passport for family vacation over shared name with Star Wars character. Did you read this?
I read the headline. His name was like Skywalker or something.
Yeah.
What an asshole.
A Star Wars loving military family's vacation hit a snag because their son was denied a passport as officials ruled that his peculiar name was too out of this world. British soldier Christian Mowbray's son was born on May 4th, 2017. May the 4th.
Okay.
May the 4th be with you. Informally known as Star Wars Day, so he and his wife, Becky, fittingly named him after one of the most famous families in cinema history in homage to the hit film franchise. They named their kid Loki Skywalker Mowbray. Loki Skywalker Mowbray. And his family faced passport problems because his middle name is copyrighted by Disney.
Are you serious?
Yeah. The Home Office, in charge of the nation's immigration, security, and law and order, denied the youngster's passport, claiming it couldn't print Skywalker because of Disney's copyright on the name. The family had no knowledge of having this issue when they named their son. The department told the family it either had to change their son's name or get permission from Disney to use Skywalker.
That's ridiculous.
They say, we were not aware that this could be a potential issue. We understand that Loki's middle name is copyrighted, but we have no intention of using it for personal gain. I understand their, and then it says in quotes, the Home Office's position and reasoning, but I believe they need to recognize that modern names are evolving, he added. I can understand if an adult changes their name for a stunt, but this is not the case for a child from birth. Mowbray says his son was eventually issued the passport and the family vacation is still on.
What do you think about this?
I don't know. Like, it's fun to name your kid something goofy, I guess, if you think it's fun, but do copyrights apply to a human's name?
That seems dumb.
They got to sue the family? Like, you used our name without permission? Changed their name?
And like, the whole time you're reading, I'm sitting here looking at some of the characters you have around here, and I'm thinking like, oh, what if you name somebody? I'm like, oh, Freddie, Jason, Stripe,
Yeah.
Michael.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're all real names, so I can't think of another example of what you would name a kid.
There's a story about Frank Zappa. His kid's name is Dweezil.
Yeah.
And he put on the birth certificate, Dweezil, and the hospital gave him a hard time. They're like, you can't name your kid Dweezil. He's like, I can't. He goes, no, you can't. You can't name your kid Dweezil. So Frank goes, all right. And he starts picking off the first names of like band members and gave Dweezil a really long name. And Dweezil's like a really smart kid. He's like a prodigy. So at 5 years old, when he heard this story, he said, Mom, Dad, I want to be Dweezil. And they went back and changed his name to Dweezil. They were able to get it through this time.
Oh, I didn't realize that wasn't his birth name. I know he had like Amit and Moon Unit, those and Dweezil. Those were his 3 kids.
4 kids. He had a girl named Diva.
Oh, I never heard of her.
Yeah. Yeah, but the hospital that Frank and Gail gave birth to Dweezil in would not let Dweezil be the name that came out of that hospital. They were like, no, you're not leaving here until you change his name to something normal.
Wow.
Like Skywalker.
Even I'm not that big of a Star Wars nerd. Although, my robot vacuum at home, the Roomba, it is named Leia, but not because I named it that. Jen and the kids named it Leia.
Why not R2 or Gonk Droid or something like that?
Gonky would have been good.
Why Leia?
I had nothing to do with it. I don't know.
Does it have 2 buns? Like,
No.
All right, this next story, it's from MovieWeb. This Frankenstein-inspired horror comedy is the only movie ever to get an S rating. Have you ever heard of an S rating?
No.
The Motion Picture Association tends to stick to a pretty strict set of rules in their ratings. You have the current system of G, PG, PG-13, R and NC-17.
Yeah.
So in a 90s horror comedy that parodied Frankenstein got an S rating, it was out of character for the MPAA and angered the director. The movie in question is Frank Henenlotter's Frankenhooker. Have you ever seen Frankenhooker? It got an S.
Does S stand for sexy?
In a commentary track on Frankenhooker's DVD release with Frank, the co-writer and director, and James Lorenz, an actor from the thing, the problems the movie faced when going up against the MPAA were brought up. Henenlotter recalled a phone call with Richard Hefner, who told him, congratulations, and I guess Richard Hefner's from the MPAA.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you are the first film rated S. When asked what that meant, he was told that S stood for shit.
Are you serious?
Henenlotter expressed that he was deeply hurt at the time, feeling that it was not their place to provide commentary on what they felt about the movie. This started a feud over the rating of the movie, and producer James Glickenhaus made it publicly known that he was fighting back. The movie eventually got an X rating, which was in use before being phased out later that same year in 1990, in favor of an NC-17. So they fought. They're like, you can't give me an S, so they gave him an X. They fought that and got it down to an R. Finally, they got it down to an R.
If I saw a movie was rated S for shit, it would probably pique my interest enough that I would want to go see it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm thinking back when I was in high school, like 97, Showgirls came out with Christy Brinkley. Oh, what's her name? Shannon. What was the girl from?
You got it all right. It was Catherine Hahn, Christy Brinkley, and Shannon Doherty. All of them in Showgirls. You did great.
That got NC-17. And that was the first time I ever heard of an NC-17. And I saw that movie just because it was NC-17.
All those actresses, by the way, were not in it.
What was her name? The girl from Saved by the Bell.
Elizabeth Berkley.
Thank you. That's what I was going for. Anyway, Showgirls, NC-17, went to go see it. I remember very weird rating at the time, which is why I was intrigued.
Yeah, I mean, if they put out S movies, like Trauma would get an S, everything John Waters would get an S, and I would go. I'd be like, I got to see every movie rated S.
Roger Corman?
Absolutely, everything would be S rated.
Yeah. But I do agree with this guy, Frank, that it is not the rating, the content rating people to determine whether the movie's good or not. You know what I mean? They're not fucking Siskel and Ebert. They're there to determine who's this movie appropriate for.
Yeah.
So the idea that they were giving their commentary on it, I think, was out of place.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, the MPAA is a bunch of fucking shitheads, I hear.
Yeah.
Like, it's barely an organization. You get a lot of perks being part of that group, but it's barely a company. It's barely a thing.
Who's watching the Watchers? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. That's our new thing. Let's go in and make sure that I want to take over the MPAA. You and me. You and me.
Right.
We're going to start our own new rating system because it's off the wall now. Like, nothing is right. When I watch a movie and I'm like, Jesus, this is PG. It's like, this is like super.
We talked last week about 80s PG was not current day PG.
No, current day PG, like, you could let 1 million people get slaughtered. Old days PG was you see a pair of breasts. Whoa. Nowadays, it's a lot more harmful.
I think you say the F word twice back in the 80s, yeah.
Oh, everything is so fucking violent. I hate to sound like a prude because I love violent shit, but I don't think our entire society can handle this.
No.
And practically, you know whose problem this is? This is Hasbro's problem when they put out fucking G.I. Joe. Started everything. We fell in love with violence because of G.I. Joe, our generation.
You think so?
No. But, it's like, we really are a violent culture. We've always loved violence in America.
Here's what I'll say, though. I like to go to the movies, and I know you feel the same way. We talked about it here before. Go to the movies as a way of escapism. So back in the day, like the Cold War was always the big looming thing. So it was always like us versus the Russians, and that was always the war thing. It was always Red Dawn. It was shit like that. But nowadays, real life is violent enough. It's not even escapism anymore. It's just like, oh, more of the fucking same.
Perfectly said. Couldn't agree more. 100% agree. Yeah, I want less violence on TV now.
Yeah, I agree. It's too much like real life.
Well, if you haven't seen Frankenhooker, by the way, it is a pretty good movie.
Where can I watch this, I wonder?
Oh, probably Tubi. All right, let's wrap this thing up. We got a couple more stories. Keep this thing moving. Next story is one you sent to me. How will theaters handle the Megalopolis live scene with Adam Driver when it opens wide?
Yeah.
I didn't know what the fuck this was about, so I read the article.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read it to all of us here.
Okay.
Over 20 markets in North America will feature a live participant to accompany the Francis Ford Coppola epic. Lionsgate, our favorite Lionsgate.
I was going to say, here comes Lionsgate, so you know it's going to be good.
Lionsgate, to its credit, is trying to preserve the theatrical experience that audiences at Cannes got when it premiered. That includes one of the most talked about scenes in the film, the Megalopolis live scene with Adam Driver. In the film, Caesar Catalina, which is Adam Driver, is taking questions from reporters during a press conference, with his face seen in close-up. The reporter's questions to him come from off-screen, so I guess there's a guy sitting in the audience yelling questions at Adam Driver.
Yeah.
That's ridiculously stupid. This is like the...
This reminds me of like the old silent movies where there'd be a guy in the corner playing piano along the fucking movie.
I thought this was Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like fan participation?
Yeah. So anyway, if that's what they did in Cannes, now they're saying, well, what are we going to do when this thing goes wide?
Well, these 20 markets are going to do it.
20 markets are going to have a person there asking questions off the side of the screen.
I would love if they just went rogue and asked their own like off-the-wall questions that didn't match up with what he was answering, or that match up with what he was answering in a completely different way.
I wish there was a way that they could force like movie theater, employees to be that person.
Here comes an usher.
Yeah. Some 15-year-old pimply kid is now.
Oh, what would you say about?
He goes to work.
Excuse me, Mr. Catalina. What would you have to say about the state of the environment?
Oh my God. And then as soon as he walks out, he has to go back to sweeping the fucking popcorn out of another theater. So weird. Is that really what they're going to do to try to get people in the theaters?
And people are like, oh, it's revolutionary. But again, I feel like it's going back to the silent era of films when they had a guy playing piano in the corner.
I hate every part of this. I also hate dinner theater.
I still don't even know what this Megalopolis is about.
I know.
I can get no grip at all on what the fucking plot of this thing is.
Me neither. Which I like. I like when shit's so fucking unexplainable.
And having said all that, I still feel more interested in seeing this than I do Thunderbolts.
Shameful.
Agree to disagree.
But I love a movie that like nobody can explain to you. That's the movie I go to see. Man, there's a movie with Nicolas Cage. It's called Mandy. It's one of the weirdest horror movies. Like nobody can explain it to you. You just got to see it. You got to see Nicolas Cage freaking out in his tighty whities in one of these scenes. I mean, it's just the greatest cinema ever. But it's a movie nobody could describe to you. It's undescribable. Here's one from Deadline. Andy Serkis teases new project featuring AI characters. So Andy Serkis, he's the mocap guy for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He's an actor. We see him in a lot of things from MCU to Star Wars. And he's a director. He did the last Spawn movie, which I just forgot.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was not a great movie, so didn't do much for his
Stick to the
directing.
AI, buddy.
Yeah. Anyway, so Andy Serkis has teased a new project featuring AI characters, which is what? Because you're like, I thought Hollywood hated AI. I thought we just had a strike about it. So let me finish. AI characters, as he describes the growing invasive tech as another form of magic that is frightening people. I think he likes it. He likes it. The Lord of the Rings star said that his Imaginarium production outfit is working on a narrative-driven story that kicks off with 2D characters created using voice actors before they, quote, come out into the AR, augmented reality world. At that point, they become AI characters authored by artists and directors, Serkis told a panel at the UK's Labour Party conference. They are in a world where you can have direct relationships with these CGI characters. Serkis didn't elaborate on the project, but spoke during a wide-ranging panel session in Liverpool about the possibilities afforded by AI, and he was high on mushrooms the entire time. I added that last part, but I have no idea what he's talking about, and I can't wait to get in line to see this.
I mean, if anybody's going to be behind AI, it's going to be Andy Serkis. He has to be most famous for playing Gollum and Smeagol in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And that whole thing was CGI, but he brought the character to life with the voice and the motion cap facial imagery like you talked about.
So if somebody's going to be cutting edge with this new
It's going to be him.
AI, why not be him?
If he's doing voices and AI can build characters for these voices, I think this is a perfect vehicle for him.
I just love that every week for the last few weeks, I've had an AI story, which means
It's here.
it's not getting pushed away.
No.
It's going to find its way into the masses eventually. Well, moving into the next story here from the Hollywood Reporter, tech firm says it will fund movie makers if they use its AI tools. Last week, I mentioned to you guys how Lionsgate is partnering with Runway, which is one of the AI tools that are pretty big out there.
Yeah.
Runway.ai, which I use. I think it's great. I think it's great for certain things. It's not great to like make a movie or do anything, but it's great for inspiration. It's a great tool for creating things. But they're trying really hard to create things that are cinema worthy. That's what they seem to be on. So now this article comes out. Nearly a week past the last report that came out. Runway has created the 100 Film Fund, which it says will provide grants ranging from $5,000 up to $1 million in order to hasten the production of movies powered by artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence research company, it's more than that. I mean, it's more than research. It actually sells the use of AI to people.
Right.
The artificial intelligence research company that inked a notable partnership with Lionsgate to train its AI models on the studio's massive 18,000 title movie and TV library is now looking to encourage the use of the emerging tech with a fund for indie filmmakers. So if Hollywood was like, fuck this, we're on strike, fuck you AI, and all of a sudden these studios are committed going, hey, we're going to give you $1 million if you stop saying fuck you AI.
Yeah.
There will be some that do it. Should I go back to the Andy Serkis story?
I mean, where's this money coming from?
Investors who are investing
in the AI.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good investment on their part. Are they buying silence? Are they buying agreement? Are they buying less disdain from actors and studios?
Yeah, I don't know. Are they trying to win over the indie guys who are like, you've always been under the big cinematic releases.
Sure.
You've never been able to compete. You've never been able to even compare.
This will level the playing field.
Maybe that's what they're trying to do.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. I mean,
we'll get a class war between the poorly funded productions versus the highly funded productions. This could be interesting.
They're all being shot on iPhones. Who the hell cares?
I know. Right. That's true. I'm just going to say, hey, I'm making a movie and stick my hand out, try to get some money. All right, here's my last story from Joe Blow. We always talk about these old 80s franchises and, they want to bring them all back. But do we really want them? Is it working?
No.
Nope.
But what if it's RoboCop?
Will it be a true RoboCop? Will it be like a over-the-top, bloody, most deaths in a movie kind of thing like the original? Because I feel like if they did that, part of me would be like, okay, they're keeping it true. But then another part of me would be like, oh, they're just trying to recapture lightning in a bottle.
As much as I bitch about how I don't want these things to come back, RoboCop I love. And I felt like they never did a great job with that franchise. The first one's amazing. The others are awful.
Well, that's the other thing. They almost killed the franchise with the sequels to the point where it's like, what else could they do?
So with modern day special effects and, social commentary and satire writers, like, could this still work? This one might be one that could still work.
Maybe. Is Blumhouse involved?
No.
Okay.
So new RoboCop TV series has James Wan as executive producer. Back in 2022, Amazon closed an $8.5 billion acquisition of the film studio MGM, giving them ownership of the studio's thousands of films and TV shows. Last year, we heard that the 6 MGM properties Amazon was most interested in doing something with were Poltergeist, Stargate, The Thomas Crown Affair, Legally Blonde, Rocky, and RoboCop.
The Thomas Crown Affair?
Yeah. There's more. Hold on.
Okay.
And we've recently heard updates on some of these projects, with a Poltergeist TV series finding its showrunners and Michael B. Jordan signing on to both direct and star in a new version of The Thomas Crown Affair.
Oh, so it's not going to be the guy that played 007.
I think he's like 802 now. How old is Pierce Brosnan?
Pierce Brosnan, that's who it was.
He's been around forever.
The only thing I remember from that movie is he stole art. Rene Russo's black top was see-through and you could see nipples. And there was a big feature of that painting of the guy with a green apple in front of his face wearing a bowler hat.
I never saw this movie.
It was about art thieves.
Oh.
And Rene Russo was hired to stop art thieves, but she hooked up with the art thief.
Yeah, I barely remember the Thomas Crown Affair. I know that was a remake of I'm pretty sure that was a remake of an earlier thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But in 2024, is anyone hollering for the Thomas Crown Affair?
Michael B. Jordan? Okay.
Do you know who James Wan is?
No.
You do. He's the director of films such as Saw, The Conjuring, and Aquaman. He did the 2 Aquaman movies.
Oh, good for you.
Good for you. Well, I don't know. That's it. That's all I got. But could I finally be excited for reviving an 80s franchise? Maybe if there is an 80s franchise I want to see more from, it could be RoboCop. There's stories to be told there. Because it's more than just a guy a cop gets killed and becomes a cyborg.
Yeah.
That whole thing was so well done. I mean, Verhoeven, who made those movies, who made Starship Troopers, which is a great parody. As you're watching that whole movie, you realize you're the asshole for cheering along with the humans.
Yeah.
He also made Showgirls, which we were just talking about.
That's right.
That one I don't quite get, but he makes really interesting movies that are very sardonic, and I think RoboCop has a lot more play in it. And I hated the second one, even though it was directed by Irvin Kershner, who did Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
So why was the second one so bad? I don't know. That shouldn't have happened. It should have been better. The third one was god-awful. I actually sat through the TV show they tried to do in the 90s or the 2000s.
Yeah.
And I watched a bunch of them, and I hated all of them. There's a RoboCop. I played the RoboCop mobile game. I hated it.
Yeah.
I hate everything that comes out RoboCop.
It's a cartoon?
The game on the phone?
Oh, no, there was a cartoon.
Yeah, there was a cartoon. There was an arcade game.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I need a good RoboCop thing. I need a real second good RoboCop thing.
You convinced me. I could get behind this. Here's a challenge for next week. Let's come up with 5 80s things that haven't been tapped yet that we would not mind getting behind.
I love it. All right. That is the challenge.
All right.
If you guys got any ideas at home, send them in.
I can think of 3 right now, but it's getting late. We'll save it for next week.
It's getting very late. It's like 6:45. We go to bed at 7.
All right. Well, that's the end of the stories.
That's the end.
That's the end of the show. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Do that thing we were talking about earlier. Tell a friend. Con them into it if you have to. But either way, let's get more people listening. Let's grow the family, like I said. And we'll talk to you next week.
Sayonara, RoboCop!
Who cares?